There's a motion at the desk. The clerk will report the motion.
Pursuant to Article 4, Section 19 of the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, NISCA moves that the rule therein be suspended and an urgency be declared, and that the rules of the House be so far suspended so that House Bill number 16 be given its second and third readings and be placed upon its final passage.
I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Niska, to explain the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. House File 16 is the data center bill that was part of the negotiated agreement to have the special session today. I urge members to support the motion.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Long.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also urge support for the motion.
There being no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill a second reading.
Second reading, House File number 16.
Second reading. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 16, an act relating to data centers.
I recognize the member from Fillmore, the author, Representative Davids, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This data center bill is a result of something that happened many years ago. I believe the year is about 2001 in the tax bill when data centers were first established. And they've been one of the most successful programs that has ever been in this state. This data center bill establishes very large customer class or subclass with the PUC. It requires data centers that use over 100 million gallons of water per year to supply pre-application information to the DNR. It creates a fee on qualified large-scale data centers that goes into the energy and conservation account. This bill also extends the sunset on the IT sales tax exemption to 35 years. It's very important to note that with the eligibility of 35 years, all these provisions have been agreed to by the Data Center Coalition as reflected in the Energy Environmental Addendum. This maintains a sunset at 2042, and there's a change where it said whichever is earlier to whichever is later. This proposal is the building trades, their number one issue this year. This is very, very important. This is a very, very important jobs bill. Thousands of jobs will be as a result of this bill passing. And we are in kind of a time situation here because states around us are landing these data centers, and it's my goal to get this passed, signed into law, so that we can start getting some of these data centers in Minnesota. North Dakota just had a massive data center land there. Cedar Rapids, Iowa. You have them in Wisconsin. These should be coming to Minnesota. And with this legislation, I believe we'll see more coming to Minnesota. Data centers provide a variety of high-paying job opportunities, engineers, technicians, electricians, construction workers. And again, we have a lot of competition, also Illinois, from surrounding states. So members, I'd really appreciate your support here. Again, this is endorsed by the trades and the Chamber of Commerce. This will be the largest job bill you'll vote on this year. Thank you, members.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill a third reading.
Third reading, House File number 16.
Third reading. Discussion to the bill. I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Acom.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will say that I think 2025 was the year of the data center. Certainly was a large bit of conversation in the Energy Committee and an issue that I've worked on quite a bit this year. And the focus of my interest was really on the very large data centers, the hyperscale data centers. And my intention was to kind of work on the policy side of things. And it was really with the intent that if we're going to have tax cuts for these data centers, then we darn well need some guardrails on the data centers. And so because very large data centers can have a big impact on our environment, they can, as Chair David said, use more than 100 million gallons of water a year. Some of them will use more energy than the city of Minneapolis, and many of them can have hundreds of diesel backup generators. And so with facilities of this size, Minnesota really deserves to have protections and strong environmental protections, strong ratepayer protections, and protecting our priorities of reaching 100% clean energy. And so, members, while this bill doesn't fully achieve these protections,
Here, let me check this out.
Members, if you could please take your conversations to the alcoves or to the retiring room. Representative Acom.
thank you, Madam Speaker. While this bill doesn't fully achieve these
know that.
protections, what it does do is make some important
Okay, I can figure
forward
something
movement
out.
and some progress. And especially on the ratepayer protections, to make sure that you and I aren't footing the bill for the extra generation and transmission that data centers are going to require. This bill ensures that the data centers will cover those costs. This bill will help protect our clean energy priorities. And one of the benefits that Representative Meckland pointed out a little bit ago is that this bill establishes a community benefit program, and it's designed to help low-income Minnesotans with weatherization and energy efficiency. And it's a great offset at a time when the the data centers will be adding a big load of energy demand on our system. And so that's, in my opinion, a great win, and not to mention it helps offset the cut we had to do to our Energy Committee budget. And it does include some environmental provisions on water to ensure that there's early coordination with the Department of Natural Resources. And that's important because as data centers have been locating in our state, they aren't always in conversation with the Department of Natural Resources. And so the information and knowledge about water availability isn't always available. They don't have that information when they're choosing a site. And so having that early coordination will be really important. And so I am going to support this bill because of these accomplishments, but I will continue to work on these issues because I do think it's really important that we have thorough environmental review on these big facilities that have big impacts on our communities. And I also want to make sure that the host communities have a voice in where they're sited. I've heard some concerns in terms of the siting locations, and I think that we have to have further conversations to ensure that we're protecting our communities. I know that data centers are coming. I think data centers bring a benefit, and many of those benefits Chair Davids has already described with jobs and local economic development and others. And so I support this bill. There's more work to do, and the good news about that is that we have another session coming. So you can expect to continue to talk data centers in 2026 too. With that, Madam Chair, I thank you.
I recognize a member from Olmsted, Representative Quam.
Two things. One, how can we, soften that deficit we see coming? Increase investment in businesses in Minnesota, so data centers would help with that. But number two, if you care about the environment and climate, data centers in Minnesota use less energy than they would in most of the rest of the United States because Minnesota is cooler. There'd be less electricity, and that's part of the reason why so many would like to put it here. And so I'm for allowing that intelligently. So I'm going to vote green on this, but I just hope that we have the conversations and work with the technologists so that we do get the data centers here instead of coming up with a one-sided approach that maybe misses some of the gains on both sides.
I recognize a member from Ramsey, Representative Hollins.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, members. I want to be really brief on this. You know, I think there's a billion reasons to support this. I support our labor brothers and sisters. I am not anti-data centers. I think there's a great letter that was sent around that has some really good environmental concerns that we should all be thinking about from MCEA. But the reason that I'm going to be a no on this bill is because I am anti-tax breaks for billionaires. When we are saying that we are trying to incentivize people to come to our state to build these facilities, we are saying that the tax burden is going to lie on our constituents. Not just my constituents, all of our constituents. We know that there are increased resources that are needed to build these data centers, to maintain these data centers, to use the environmental resources that we all love. And it's going to cost money. And the people who are coming here to build data centers have money. These are the richest people in the world. They do not need our tax breaks. It is fiscally irresponsible for us to be providing tax breaks to people who could otherwise pay these bills. We talk a lot about fiscal responsibility in this body, in this room, and I cannot square those conversations with this decision. We had Amazon in our building lobbying us hard. Amazon, Jeff Bezos, Amazon. He does not need a tax break. Who needs a tax break? People in my district who are struggling to be able to pay their property taxes. People in your district that are struggling to be able to afford food, who can't maintain our library systems, who can't maintain our schools. But in this moment, when we need resources more than ever, we are looking at billionaires and saying, you don't have to pay. It's okay. Don't worry about it. We want you to come here so bad, so bad. Totally ignoring the fact that there are a billion reasons that they actually want to come here, reasons that are outside of our control, reasons like our climate, the fact that it's cold and they don't have to cool the data centers, reasons like our 100% effort because they like the fact that we are building our clean energy infrastructure. These people are coming regardless of whether or not we give them tax breaks. This is fiscally irresponsible, and I can't do this to my constituents, so I'm a no. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Todd, Representative Wiener.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Chair Davids, for bringing this bill. And thank you for a single subject bill. Omnibus bills are kind of the bane of my existence, and so when we see single subject bills, I appreciate that. Before I was on the Energy Committee, I guess I didn't understand fully how big the race to AI really was. I can compare it to, in the 1960s, obviously it wasn't around, but the race to the moon. We are in a race right now for AI, and the data centers are a critical part of this. Unfortunately, in our state, we have regulations and tax codes which end up driving businesses and industries out of our state, make us uncompetitive. Was mentioned before, the state of North Dakota is looking at pulling billions of dollars of investment into their state. While we are looking at driving billions of dollars out with our tax code and regulations. We know that in the future, jobs and so forth are going to revolve more and more around AI and data centers. We need to bring more of these businesses into our state. We need to clean up our tax code and our regulations so that we can appeal to people to bring their businesses here so that we can keep younger people in our state. we have lost an incredible amount of 18 to 35 years old because of lost opportunities. So thank you for bringing this bill forward, Chair Davids. I will be voting yes.
The member from Sherburne, Representative Meckland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Excuse me. So on the data center issue, Chair Acom, you were right. We do have more work to do. I totally do agree with that. And hopefully we can spend the next year resolving a few of these unresolved issues. Particularly, I have good news for Representative Hollins that seems to have an issue with Amazon. They have officially backed out based on this deal. And that was the one data center that was coming to my district, which has been a long 5-6 year fight. With the onset of Sherco going away, there's a significant financial hole to fill to the county, the city, and the school. This would have done that, and that is now gone. So I'm not saying they're all going. Several of them are agreeing to these terms. I don't think the certificate of need was too much to ask, in my opinion. There's some members who have concerns about the large power consumption that they have. And for those that do backup generation, the utility has the ability to have them get off at peak demand times and get on their backup generation to free up the rest of the grid. This seems like a logical solution. The certificate of need is more used when a utility wants to create more capital investment. They have to show that they really truly need it because it affects our rates. These companies are wanting to spend millions of dollars on generators to protect their billions of dollars in equipment because they simply can't shut down. We've toured a data center where they explained what happens if they lose power. They have 6 minutes to figure it out and get those generators on. So for me, this is a pretty passionate one because it's been an ongoing thing with the 8 host communities. And when we finally thought we were there, we come up with this one minor roadblock. They've agreed to all of this. They just needed that. And to say that they're not paying their fair share, as I mentioned before, there's a $5 million fee, which most of them will hit eventually as they build out. They all agreed to that. You took away the sales tax exemption for the energy, which is a very significant number if you ask Excel, what will that amount to? They agreed to that. So we're not completely there. Several of them have said they will not. As Chair Davids mentioned, what was just announced, North Dakota landed a pretty big one. Congratulations to them. It sounds like Wisconsin's going to be getting a few more. But I'm disappointed in that we could not get this one other piece in there. And I've worked extensively, Patty, you know that we've talked endlessly on this. And it's a frustrating thing for me on this. And now I have an entity which has not indicated they're going to sell the land right away. Maybe that's a good thing, or maybe they sit on it until they finally find a buyer, and now there's a piece of land that I can't even find something to put there. So I hope we can work this out soon in this interim and get back to this very early next session. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Any further discussion? To the bill author, Representative Davids.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And to Representative Meckland, I hope I can be part of that over the interim to try and put this together for your community. As I was whipping the bill, I had Rep. Hollins as a maybe, but I guess she's probably not. I do need to correct the record, members. The first data center bill that I had was in 2011. I think I said 2001. It was 2011. Time flies when you're having fun. So with that, members, and Chair Acom, thank you for your support of the bill. And I think there are some pretty good guardrails here. And so that, members, I just really appreciate a green vote.
The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will call the name of the member participating remotely.
Olson.
House File 16, Olson votes yes.
Olson votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 85 ayes and 43 nays, the bill is passed and its title is agreed to.